Hey, everybody. It's Jay-Z. I'm happy to have Lieutenant Parice Anderson with me today, and Madainn, also known as Maj Kral. And Maj runs our STEM education program throughout Breakthrough Schools. Parice is a graduate of one of our schools, ePrep at Breakthrough, and is now lieutenant in the U.S. Space Force. And many of you know Parice from different appearances at the Bash and starring in our video. And Maj had a little cameo appearance in one of our videos that featured Parice launching rockets. But we have a bunch of people on the phone, and if anybody, we're going to have an opportunity for you in the audience, Zoomers, to go ahead and, if you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat and I'll read it off. But we'll get started. We have about a little less than 45 minutes. So anyway, Parice, Maj, welcome. Glad you're here.
And thanks for having me.
And you guys can stay off mute and everybody else can go on mute. That'll probably be helpful. So Maj, let me just start with you. STEM, just tell us, many people know what STEM is, but just explain what is STEM? What does it stand for?
Yeah, so STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And within my role at our network, I am in charge primarily of the ST and the E. We've got a whole other awesome group of people who I work with who are primarily in charge of math. And I really get to focus on the things that I'm super passionate about with science, technology, and engineering.
Cool. And, that makes sense for like college curriculum and high school. You talk about science and technology and engineering. How does that relate to, we're just a K through 8. So how do we do it in K through 8 world?
Yeah, well, our goal is to do it in ways that are actually very similar to the college level courses that you're talking about. We want our students to be able to have the opportunity to get hands-on and actually be scientists and do science as young as their careers in K-8. We don't want the first time that they're actually being scientists or doing science to be when they reach college or even career level. We want them to have those opportunities to get messy with it, to play around with it and actually be scientists from a very young age. See what parts of the different domains they like, what different strategies they can hone and different skills they can really hone from a very young age. I like to use the analogy of soccer and playing soccer. You wouldn't expect students to be good at soccer if you just sat them in front of textbooks about soccer or studied famous soccer players or anything like that. You get out there on the field, you give them the ball, you run drills, you practice your skills. And so we really take a very similar approach, even in K-8, as foreign as that might sound to a lot of folks who went through more traditional science, specifically science education. You're like, well, you've got our kindergartners doing experiments, and yeah, that's the goal. And right now we really do have students in 4-8 getting hands-on and experiencing science in ways that look very similar and closely mirror, I think, what Parice does now and what scientists and engineers across all the different fields do, and even in college as well.
Well, that's really cool. And is this the first year or second year that we've really focused a specialty of STEM?
This is the second year that my role has existed and that we have adopted the curriculum that really aids in a lot of the vision that we have. That said, of course, last year was fully remote, and while we made every effort to do similar things and continue to make that vision live out, even in our remote context, being back in person gives us a much better scenario for that. So This is we called last year 0, and this is officially year 1.
Got it. So can you help us all understand when you said, you want to do hands-on, and can you give us an example? Like, what would a 5th grader, let's say, do, and just tell us about a typical experience for a 5th grader.
Yeah, so right now our 5th graders are in what is called the ecosystem restoration unit, and so they're working through, it's a 25 lesson unit, and they're working through the ability to understand why a fictional ecosystem is not thriving. And in order to come to an understanding of why that ecosystem is not thriving, they're going through a lot of different experiences and gathering evidence in a lot of different mediums in order to gain a deeper and increasingly complex understanding of why this ecosystem might not be thriving. So from day 1 of this unit, students actually built their own terrariums in the classroom. And throughout the time that this unit's been live in their classroom, obviously those terrariums have been growing and expanding, and they've been adding different things into the terrariums to promote that growth and promote the thriving nature of the terrariums. I'm actually stalling a little bit because I want to pull up a picture from one of our classrooms of the terrariums that the students have been working with and building. And this one teacher at our ePrep Woodland Hills classroom, Mr. Michael Thompson, he is Chill Nye the Science Guy on Instagram if you're interested. And he has been posting some of the updates to his students' terrarium. So I'm just pulling that up real quick for us all to see. Let's see, desktop share. So you can see here in this picture, we can all see this, right?
Yeah.
You can see that his students are measuring the growth of their terrariums and really able to see how much they've thrived in the very few weeks that they've actually been in this unit. And in order to promote growth and to make sure that these terrariums are really able to thrive, Mr. Thompson even went above and beyond what's in the curriculum and found some worms to throw in these terrariums with his students. So we've got some fake snakes and some real worms in there as well. And this is, you can see this is from from September 13th. So you can see even from like September 13th, that grass is not as big as it was in 6 days ago when he posted this update. So there's just a little taste of some of the stuff that students are doing, especially specifically in 5th grade, to get hands-on and throughout this unit really gain a deeper understanding of ecosystems specifically.
Yeah, that's something. So Parice, are you jealous that the kids are doing this now when they were in 6th grade and you didn't have this opportunity when you went to ePrep?
Yes, I am, but I'm also very excited for them. They get to have these opportunities, experiences.
Yeah. So listen, Parice, the reason I wanted you on the call is because you were inspired a little bit in middle school in science. Can you just tell us the story of what you experienced in middle school and how that might have led to what you're doing today?
Okay, so I had a really big passion for STEM when I was in school, science specifically. The only thing was I wasn't that good at science. I loved it, but for some reason, I just wasn't performing at the levels that I should have been performing at. And it just took a lot of help to get me there. But again, we took a lot of practice tests to take the Ohio, each year you had the Ohio achievement test and different things like that. So we took a lot of practice tests. We took about like one a month. And some months I would do really well, some months I wouldn't do really well. But again, science was my passion. So I had a teacher at the time, Mr. McBride. I went to him and I was just like, hey, help please. And he knew how passionate I was about science, and he was also very passionate about science. And so he took the time out to study with me. We went over different things. Anything I did understand, he went over it over and over again until I began to understand it. And so that really helped me, right? It gave me the encouragement that I needed, because at some point I was just like, wow, I really love science, but I'm just not doing well. And so by him just taking the time out and just giving me those one-on-ones, working with me, it really helped me in the long run. And then it was the day when, I remember it like it was yesterday, we were sitting in a rotunda in the new building and they were reading off everybody's scores. But my score wasn't read off, and I was so nervous. I was like, wow, did I not pass the test?
Yeah.
And he was like, at the end, he mentioned we have like one last score to read off, and this person scored the highest. And she, doesn't know this because she thought that she wasn't going to do well. And it ended up being me. And I was just so happy because it was him that sat down and took me, had those one-on-one sessions with me and made sure that I was going to do well. And I really appreciate that, because to this day, it sticks with me, and science is still something that I'm very passionate about. Hence why I'm in STEM now.
Yeah, so for those of us on the call that don't know exactly what you do now, that you were inspired through science, tell us what you're up to.
Okay, so currently I am a project officer. Oh, correction. I just been promoted to project manager for a enterprise and management program over in the Space Force. I currently work on ground to satellite communication systems. So basically, for everyone who doesn't know, satellites control everything, whether, we use satellites to manage our GPS constellation, helps with Zoom calls, the telephones, the ATMs, we do all of that, right? So we need to make sure those systems are protected and enhanced at all times. We currently work on capabilities to make those systems better, make sure we don't have any interference and different things like that. And in my previous assignment, the one I just left from, I launched rockets. So that was really cool, being able to actually launch those satellites and work with the mission partners and get to see the vehicles take off. All of that was super exciting.
Yeah, we're so proud of you. And Maj, I remember you had some little kids do a little fake rocket launch, right?
Yep.
Is that
Yeah, we got so inspired by Parice, and we did a whole rocket launch unit. It was a little arc, but that's just back when I was still in the classroom. And it was super exciting. The kids loved it because they had to iterate over, as I'm sure Parice does, and be like, okay, this particular launch did not work well. What can we do different? How can we build the launcher better next time, and iterate over it and keep working? So it was excellent and totally inspired by what Parice was doing at the time.
Oh, that's cool. That was great. And yeah, you were a star in that video with your class. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Priest, when you said protect the set, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean protect the satellites from what?
There's all type of things that can happen in space, right? A lot of people don't understand how space weather works. It's not the same as like ground weather, but there is space weather, and sometimes you have to make sure that satellites are covered. So there are actually people like myself that work on the ground sites in different parts of the country, and they control these satellites 24/7. So the satellites that are out there maneuvering, there are people that's on the ground controlling them. And so we have to make sure that space weather doesn't affect them. We also have to make sure that we don't have any adversaries that are trying to affect our satellites as well. Also, there's a lot of things about things flying in space, right? Space junk or debris, different things like that. If they see anything coming, they have the capabilities to maneuver the satellite and make sure that they're protected.
Now, when satellites, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't the satellites travel at the same speed as the Earth? So they're always positioned in the same place, like above Cleveland. That satellite is always above Cleveland, even as the world turns. Is that right or not?
No, so there are some like that. Those are geostationary satellites. And so there are geostationary satellites that are always positioned at that one location and travels, but there are others who move a little bit faster. Some move a little bit slower. We just had some satellites that launched yesterday. It was Landsat. Landsat is moving very fast. They're able to take images of the Earth every so minutes and hours. So there's different types of satellites and different things that you can do with them, depending on what you're looking for and what you need.
Gotcha. Hey, so Maj, when you're working with, let's say, middle school kids, is there any unit that has anything to do with like what Parice is talking about? With tell us about that.
We've got some parallels, not exactly the same as satellites, although there is. I was just creating a test for our 8th graders, and there was a question about satellites colliding on the test. So definitely some parallels there. But actually, the force and motion unit that we teach to our 8th graders takes place in space as a way to sort of eliminate a lot of the variables that are often related with force and motion, such as friction and gravity, and truly teach students like at a very high level what literally just force and motion is once you strip out all those other variables. That's sort of the rationale behind why it takes place in space, but it's definitely directly related to a lot of the considerations that Parice, I believe, is making with different things when it comes to watching out for collisions and making and docking space stations. Maybe not as much in the current line of work, but that's one of the particular components of the force and motion unit in 8th grade, which is all about space pods and docking those and all of those considerations with how force and motion play together in specifically in space. So some really cool parallels for sure.
Man, I wish I was in middle school and had you as a teacher. Geez, that'd be fun. Hey, talk to us a little bit about the Verizon 5G lab that is available to our scholars and how you utilize it with some of this hands.
Yeah, we're so excited about the Verizon 5G lab. Obviously, we've had the one at Cliffs for a few years now and continue to really invest in that program and that space. We've got a teacher who's in there. She's new to the curriculum. She's new to the program last year, so this is her first year in the space, and it's been so great to get in there with her and to see the ways she's really leveraging all of the technology that's in there. What's also really exciting is that we very recently opened a lab at our Hamden campus as well. So we've got a 5G immersion lab. I believe they're slightly different, innovation versus immersion lab. So it's a slightly smaller scale, but still has all of the really cool virtual reality technology, some really, really advanced 3D printers, as well as a bunch of just other awesome tech in the space alone. And then with that, we also get some really high quality curriculum from Verizon and our partners at Arizona State University, and our teachers in both of those lab spaces are able to utilize those curriculum and all of the technology in this space as well to give students a lot of really awesome hands-on immersive experiences in specifically those technology fields, and get in those 3D printers, start doing some virtual reality stuff as well. And I'll be honest, I haven't spent as much time now that we're back in person in those spaces as I would have liked, but I know from my communication with those teachers and the people on the ground in those labs that things are going really well, and they're so excited to be able to actually physically be in those spaces with our students this year.
Cool. So Parice, so your favorite was science. You talked about how you weren't good at it, then all of a sudden you got the highest test score thanks to extra hard work by you and Mr. McBride and so forth. But talk to me how that passion progressed through high school and college, and do you attribute any of that to your current work and your current love of what you're doing in aeronautics and space and all that kind of stuff? Maybe help us put together the linkage between middle school and all the way through to what you're doing today.
Right. Well, absolutely. I definitely contributed to what I'm doing today. Again, middle school gave me that confidence that science was for me. It was just something that I was always passionate about, and it gave me the complete confidence that science was for me. When I got into high school, there was a couple science programs that they offered, and so I tried to get into those programs and just stay up to speed and different things that I ended up doing. And then also for high school, the high school that I ended up going to, we had to take a test to place in, I guess, the education level for science, right? You can go to basically a beginner course, intermediate, or you can go to the advanced course. And thankfully I got placed in the advanced course because I became so smart with science. And so that helped me, right? And I started to love physics more. I was so excited about physics. Physics probably was my favorite subject when it came to science. Physics and chemistry. One, because I liked all of the things, like chemistry is really cool, right? Who doesn't like to see all types of fires and lights and different reactions? So I really love that. And then also in middle school, we did an experiment in the parking lot where we dropped a menthol in a soda cup, in a soda bottle, and that just showed a reaction. So that was one of the things that also intrigued me about our chemistry. So having that physics and chemistry experience and then being really excited, it just continued to push me through. And when it came to decide my major, I knew I wanted to do aerospace engineering. So I went on to college, right? And I'm studying aerospace engineering. Aerospace engineering college was 10 times harder than middle school and high school, but I still pushed through. I just still use those things that came with me before, the knowledge and the confidence that I had before, to continue to push through. And then also, when you're in college, you still do small experiments. We did bottle rocket projects. We did different things like that I've done in middle school. And it just helped me. It just reminded me, like, one, you're never too old to have fun. It was completely fun. And then two, it's teaching you those basic fundamentals. So every time you thought that you forgot about something, it just helped you remember it. It reminded you. And all the way up until, I came into the Space Force, when I got my assignment as a space operator. Before I got my assignment, I got to list what I wanted. And they was like, wow, you're really passionate about science. I was like, yes, I'm really passionate about science. And so science and space was just like my big thing. And when I got my first assignment, I was just super excited because, one, I never thought that I would see rocket launches, right? When I was in middle school, they were still talking about the space shuttle program and then how the space shuttle program was changing and, different things about funding being taken away. So those things, to be able to live this dream of something that I saw myself doing as a young kid, it's just I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah, you're living the dream, and I'll put you on the spot because one thing you told me that the 5 keys to success at ePrep helped you power through high school and college. Can you remember what those 5 are way back a long time ago?
Oh, I think I can. Those were self-discipline, respect, perseverance, courage, and responsibility.
Wow. Not bad for an old lady remembering back to middle school. Jeez. Hey, so Maj, you probably got some scholars that remind you of Parice. Any good stories of some kids that are really excited about this? And
I think I'm honestly, I would say just about every scholar that you see in a science class. When you actually give scholars the opportunity to explore in the ways that Paris has been able to, and you actually give them the ability to do that, and not just like present them with a bunch of articles about different scientists or different facts and figures. You actually give them the opportunity to do it. That natural inquisitive nature just clicks. And just about every scholar, from the ones that honestly have a really hard time in core subjects like ELA and math, have like are so successful in science classes for that reason, because they're able to get hands-on, they're able to explore their natural curiosity in ways that the domain just really lends itself to. I know when we filmed the video, one of my students, Lyric Geddes, we were trying to draw a lot of parallels between her and Parice, and we had some Laura has got some good shots of Lyric looking up at the rocket that she launched the same way that Parice was looking up at the rocket that she launched. And so that, there's definitely some specific students as well. But I really would say just about every scholar that has come through my science classrooms and that I see now in my role when I pop in and observe science classrooms, you just give them those opportunities to get hands-on and explore and play, literally play. Like Bree said, it's all about having fun. And just about every scholar can do that. It does that as well. And it's really awesome to see.
so you go to multiple campuses, right, Mash?
Yes, and
you're not
yeah,
you're
and
not just like Cliffs or Citizens.
No.
I mean, you go to all of them. So
I go to all of them.
So how do you do that? How do you? Because it sounds like you touch almost every kid in our school.
At this point, yeah, I really do. It's so exciting to be able to do that too. But I have a pretty crazy schedule that rotates and means that I have all 6 campuses at least once throughout a 2-week cycle, and we do very structured walkthroughs with the whole STEM department and the individuals on specific campuses who are tasked with supporting our teachers in the STEM disciplines. And then I have on off weeks, when we're not doing those structured walkthroughs, I have more informal touch points where I'm able to go in and observe specific teachers and really support our deans of instruction, the people who at the building level are charged with driving all of our initiatives and priorities within the STEM department.
Got it. So is it safe to say that there are, in addition to you as STEM, there are science teachers, there's math teachers, there's and you're working mostly with them, or do you also work with the scholars themselves sometimes?
Well, as somebody who just got out of the classroom, when I pop in and observe, I really love to like sit down with scholars and see them and talk and like whisper to them, and especially when it's like independent work or group work, and really sit with a group and work with them. But officially my main role is teacher facing and leader facing. But I always find myself gravitating towards scholars, and I was just in a classroom at Cliffs this morning, and we were having a lot of great discussions about that ecosystem. They're still in that ecosystem unit, so about what they were discovering and learning along the way, and hearing all of the conclusions that they were drawing on their own was so exciting. And it was a lot more exciting than sitting in front of the teacher and talking. Actually getting to sit in the group with the students was what I love doing. So yes, officially, unofficially, I love getting those touch points with students for sure.
Yeah, good. Hey, for those of you on the Zoom, go ahead and start putting some questions in the chat if you want. And I got one here, Maj. I don't know if you can answer it or not. And I'm guessing that maybe because of the COVID last year, this didn't happen. But the question is from Lauren Miller. Are any local companies affiliated anyway with what you're trying to do in STEM? Do we have any outside relationships, or is this all internal right now?
Right now we have a lot of internal and like national partnerships between Verizon and our curriculum providers and our other programs that we've brought in. We don't have any local partners at the moment, but would love to. We are in talks with a few local partners. I will say that's been very exciting to get to feel that excitement and that desire to join us and to contribute to our STEM department. So we've had a lot of great conversations that, exactly with COVID hadn't gone anywhere as of yet, but we're looking forward to that for sure, and welcome any other opportunities and partnerships that we can get.
Cool. So another question, what can we do to make our STEM program more robust? Is that something you're thinking about at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially in year 0, our focus was really on science and launching the science curriculum that we're using and getting that like really under our belts and really having all our teachers really confidently trained and with fidelity implementing a science specific curriculum. As folks get more and more comfortable with that, and as we are back in the classroom now with more time on our hands to some degree, in some places in particular, we really want to make sure that we're also expanding into specifically the T and the E, the technology and engineering part of that acronym. And so we have invested substantially in programs from companies like iRobot, where we brought in programmable robots to all of our campuses this year and are really excited. We haven't launched those yet, but are really excited to launch those this year and give our students an opportunity to program the robots. And the robots are really cool, actually. They are magnetic, so they can stick on like a whiteboard wall and climb and draw and trace and like follow colors and everything, and all at the student's command, right? So the students are commanding the robots and programming to do those things. They don't do anything by themselves out the box. You gotta program it. So we are actively rolling those things out and looking for more opportunities to do exactly that, to have a more robust, fully STEM department and program, rather than just focusing on the S and the M, but making sure that we're giving love to that T and that E in the middle as well.
Well, that's super, and that ties in with the, you kind of almost answered the next question, which came up, which has to do with computer programmer, software programming in general. I know the robots is that's the early way to teach kids coding, right?
Yes.
Are we doing anything else? I know when I was in high school, but well, this is way before all you guys are born, but we actually did do, we learned basic computer language. Today, I suppose it's something else, but do we have any thoughts about computer programming or coding?
Absolutely. So we, as a network, we participate in the Hour of Code every December, which is primarily driven by code.org, which is an awesome website if you haven't checked it out, that puts out a lot of really cool activities for literally all levels, K-12. Like literally we have kindergartners programming at their level with icons and stuff. We're not asking them to write their own JavaScript lines, but we do have all of that. And we do that primarily in December. And then definitely personally, I'm looking forward to implementing an even more robust computer science program and specifically different programming languages. My last year in the classroom, my very first unit was a computer science unit that taught our students HTML and CSS. And by the end of the unit, they were creating their own websites from scratch, writing in HTML and CSS, which are two computer programming languages for those on the call who might not be aware, that are not easy. It's a whole different language, and they're two completely different languages. So students had to master the basics of both in order to effectively build their final project websites. And this was 4th and 5th graders. So and I'd love to do that with even more. Obviously, that was at the campus that I was in the classroom at, and that was something that I personally am passionate about and brought into my classroom. But now that I'm at my level, now that we've got year 0 under our belt, and we're slowly getting more and more confidence with the science curriculum, and I'm able to focus more attention on technology and engineering, that in particular is something that I want to bring to all of our schools and make sure that all of our students have the ability to, in a very meaningful way, learn computer science languages.
That's awesome. And because that is the future, right? I suppose all of our kids should know some coding before they leave our schools. And sounds
totally agree.
Hey, Parice, ongoing learning for you in the Space Force. Do they offer more classes or more opportunities for you to continue to learn?
Yes, they do. There's different type of classes and courses that you can take depending on what you do. For example, with me being out here now doing more so the acquisitions field, I actually have a curriculum to take a specific amount of acquisitions courses just to stay like up to speed with that. But also just going into more STEM stuff. So on my uniform, I have some badges here. So this badge is a space badge, and it's basically saying I've received my the basic level of space education that the military has to offer, but there's 2 more badges you can get. So after I'm done with my acquisitions courses, I plan to go on to space 200, basically space 100, space 200, space 300. So I plan to go on to space 200 to get another advanced space badge, and then I'll be going to an acquisition school to get a badge for that as well. And then you can also go on to what they have like weapon school, and for weapon school for space, right? It's a new thing. Space is the new hot thing out right now. So it's not learning about weapons as in the weapons that we would think of today. It's now we have these rockets and these vehicles that we can use for who knows what, whether it's transportation or warfare. And so you can learn about different things like that, or if you just want to do something like coding, they have new coding programs. You can go take a course on that. I have a friend who's in one. He's super smart, way smarter than me. So I just let him get that opportunity. But there's a lot of different programs depending on what you want to do.
Yeah,
And they
that's
also
awesome.
offer education for like, if you just want to go get like your master's or pilot training, different things, they offer funding for those too.
Hey, Maj,
Coding is for literally everyone, Parice. I'm just saying, I didn't know how to code or do anything until 2019. And then I joined this program and they taught me everything I know. And I was terrified of it in college. I literally had friends who same thing. I was like, oh, they're smarter than me. They're in those comp sci classes. And that's never something I'm going to do. And then I just took the plunge and I'm obsessed. It's so much fun and it's for everyone. So yes, keep that in mind and join your friend in those computer science classes.
So I got a comment in the chat. It's not a question, but it says it's excellent hearing about all the great things that are happening. Thank you. So thanks to you guys. Hey, Parice, do you have any questions for Madge? Or Madge, you have questions for Parice, just to go back and forth?
Yeah. Let me think.
Yeah, of course. Well, first off, I'm super excited. Now that we're talking about coding, I'm super excited, especially with learning that the kids, you said that there were kindergartners that were learning, of course, at that level. But how is it seeing them interact, right? I know it's different because kids are used to learning like in a class with the whole COVID thing, right? We had to start learning on a computer. Was it like hard for them to adapt with learning something pretty advanced like that?
Yeah, I think the last time I saw the kindergartners in particular doing code.org and hour of code stuff was when we were still in person, right? But literally right before the pandemic, right before 2020, because hour of code is obviously, like I said, in December. So that was the last time I saw the kindergartners really engaging with it. But it was really cool because it's all logic based, right? So you tell a student that if you can instruct the computer to do these steps, it's going to do what you want. So you sort of have them, or that there's the objective for the lesson. It's like, what do you want it to do? And it could be something as simple as like making an animated shark like lift its left flipper or whatever. And then you've got to have the scholars really understand, how do you tell the shark to do that? And so even students as young as in kindergarten are able to put that, to understand that logic, and then put things in the order that they need to be put in the syntax that they need to be put in order to tell the shark to lift its flipper or dance or whatever. So that it's really cool. And the programs that we use from code.org really do an excellent job of scaffolding to all levels to make sure that it's accessible to students in kindergarten, but other activities are still challenging and exciting enough to students who are ready for that next push.
Hey, Maj, a question in the chat has to do with the use of Chromebooks, and do we still use them in school and at home? Because, before COVID, I heard from some of our administrators that maybe we didn't use technology to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Then, of course, when we were remote, that's all we were doing. And the question is, has that stuck? And are most of the teachers actively engaging and having the kids get on the computers often?
Yes, absolutely. I think I am particularly in the science classes, which are the ones that I get to pop into the most. I often will see the students using the Chromebooks for certain things, and then putting them out. We call it Pac-Man mode, closing them a little bit, pushing them off to the side so that they can engage with something else, and then dragging it back over and opening it back up when they need to the point in the chat around like using it at home. In addition to like that blended thing, I think that's something that we're working towards, and I've definitely been part of conversations and had some discussions about ways to effectively do that. I will say I don't think it's something that's happening as of right now. Our Chromebooks are still staying in the school, so they're not traveling back and forth to school with our kids at the moment. But that is something that A is something that's coming, and B are in previous years and this year again. We still have a program with Verizon and the iPads at some of our campuses, and they have 4G connection and they do travel back and forth. And so students are able to engage in stuff that they take home with them digitally as like digital homework, and then able to bring those devices back to school to continue that education and that blended learning in the classroom environment as well.
So I might be putting you on the spot. You may not know this, but we do have kids quarantining now at home.
Yeah.
And when they do, they continue to learn through the ASU, Arizona State University. Can you explain it all? Like, how does that work? I assume they do get the Chromebook to take it home. And I assume they have to get online and engage. So
Yes.
tell us what a typical quarantine situation is, and how many kids are out right now on quarantine? Do you happen to know?
I do not, to be honest with you. That is a silo of the team that I am not a part of. But I know that they're very excited about the work being done within that silo. And that yes, I do know that when a student or a class of students has to be quarantined, they are immediately sent home with the tech that they'll need to be able to further their education and engage throughout that quarantine period, including as needed hotspots. We're very, very fortunate in that our school has been able to, through the generosity of our donors and other program partners, been able to send hotspots home to students who don't have was consistent use of broadband or access to broadband at home. So that's really, we're very fortunate in being able to do that. And yeah, when scholars are quarantined, they're sent home and they're given access to actually live teachers from ASU. That's the extent of my knowledge. I don't know exactly what like a day with the ASU teachers looks like, but I know that it's not just like a packet of like a paper packet and some asynchronous stuff, which we learned in March of 2020 is not the way to go. And so we're really continuing to emphasize, even when scholars are quarantined, synchronous, meaning live instruction, even from home.
Yeah, I think it's pretty special. And my understanding is that we are one of the only ones that we know of doing this with Arizona State, where they are actually following our curriculum and our scope and sequence. It's not like you send them home and they're getting some other, they're getting what our kids are getting in school.
Yes.
Except it's taught by Arizona State U. Okay, Maj, any questions for Parice?
Well, okay, to put you on the spot, if there was one thing that you wished you had gotten in your science, your middle school, specifically science career, what would that have been? Just so I can make sure that our scholars today are getting what maybe you wish you had when you were in our buildings.
I would say, well, you guys are kind of doing this now, right? When I was in school, we didn't have a lot. We had technology, but the things, the activities you guys are doing now and the technology that you guys have now, we didn't have those. But I would say definitely for science or STEM, kind of give kids a wide band of what they can do. When it comes to science and STEM. And the reason why I say is because, like, for me, you guys are, like I said, you guys are learning to explore these things. But for me, science was something that was big to me. But at the time, space didn't take a role until I went on to college and I learned that I could do, astrospace or aerospace. So just exploring the different options out there. And then also biology. That is really big. And a lot of people don't realize this now, but just learning about life science and biology, how you guys are doing it and doing those types of experience, it actually helps a lot of people. A lot of my friends went to college and they majored in biology. I didn't understand why at the time, but then they went on to be doctors, right? They went on to be dentists. A lot of my friends are dentists and they all majored in biology. So just giving them the different perspectives of what each of those things can do for them and what they can lead to, because sometimes people don't know that, right? They think, okay, if I study biology, I'm just going to go on to do things and not, they really don't expand their brains to think what all they can do. So just keep throwing out there what's possible. And even with the coding, like that is so awesome. That is so awesome.
So
no, that's so true.
So Parice, what you're saying is tie practical career opportunities to STEM. Right.
Yes.
And
I think that helps too when you and it's still a very young, right? When I came in, you guys told us immediately you were the class of 2017 and you're going to college. That was the first time I've heard that. And so keep doing things like that and then tying in what you can do later on down the line. That helped me so much. Again, like I said, that was the first time I heard that. And so I went home, but before I even grasped what it said, I just remember you telling me I was the class of 2017. So honestly, I wasn't too excited. I went back and told my grandmother, like, I didn't know middle school lasted that long. But then she broke it down to me and explained everything to me. So that really helped.
Yeah.
The kindergartners wear class of 2035 t-shirts. They got class of 2035. And that was a couple years ago. So they're probably second graders now. But yeah, imagine that. Being 6, being told you're the class of 2035. That's so true.
That is
I love
crazy.
it. I love
Hey, we only
it.
got a couple minutes left, and I wonder if anybody wants to put anything else in the chat, or if you want to go off mute and ask your question live. I'm sure Madge and Parice would love to hear from other people. So I'll just wait a minute on that. And then Madge, I was wondering if you thought, to Parice's point of telling kids what they could possibly do, would it make sense someday to have maybe Parice zoom into one of your classes and
Absolutely.
just talk for 10
Yeah.
minutes about, hey, science is,
Yeah.
did you know that I love
Yeah.
science, and now I'm a lieutenant, and there's opportunities in the military to use science. There's opportunities probably going right into manufacturing. And so,
yeah. Yes,
I mean,
absolutely. Parice, any of our local partners, anybody who can help. To Parice's point, that's such a great point. I'm so glad you said that, Parice, and it really gives me a lot to think about. But giving our students the opportunity to see all of the different paths that they could take. There's such a wide array of paths you can take, to Parice's point. And all too often, students are told, okay, you're going to be a biologist or you're going to be a doctor. And they're like, and that's all that science is to them, right? But there's so many different things that you can do within the STEM fields, within science in general. And so anybody that can help us make that visible would be so welcome, for sure.
Cool.
Absolutely. I would definitely love to join.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Sanjay, JZ. Just wanted to chip in on Madge, your comment there. That was actually a comment I was going to make, and I think you got to it, because people think science and they think scientist, but
Right.
I'm in the business field, and frankly, when I look around at the executive team and a lot of people up at that level, they've had some sort of engineering or science background. We just help them, equip them in life. So I imagine some of the messaging to the kids may change over time. Like maybe in kindergarten, they can think of scientists, but maybe by the time they get to 8th grade and they're thinking about like money or whatever they want, that this might also be a message that you weave in there as well. So I thought that was a very good point.
Yeah, no, we did an experiment. I read an experiment that was a bunch of 4th graders were asked to draw a picture of a scientist, and almost all of them just drew a white man in a lab coat, and that was it. And so that's all they saw as a scientist. So anybody that can help us make all of these other different paths and people in these paths visible to our students. Almost none of our students are white men in lab coats, right? So that's not, they can do anything in the science fields and do anything with science. And so anybody who can help us make that visible is more than welcome to reach out. And we'd love to have you help us continue to put that message forward.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Larry Orwin, who now works with Google, says engineering teaches you how to solve problems, just as problem solving, which is what we're really all about now at Breakthrough is problem solving. Listen, I don't want to keep you guys past the allotted time. You've been great. It's 1:13. Is there anybody else on the Zoom that just wants to go off mute and make a comment or ask a question? This is your chance. All right. You've all been very good to stay on mute so we don't hear dogs or anything. That's kind of cool. Crying babies and stuff like that. But anyway, Madge, thank you so much. I know you're super busy.
Yes.
Thanks for taking the time. Larry Orwin says thank you. Parice, thanks for carving out time. I know you're always on the run and running meetings and doing all sorts of great stuff. So
project manager, that's exciting.
Thank you.
Dick Pace says your enthusiasm is great, and everybody's thanking you all. So, all right, stay in touch, and Madge, reach out to Parice, and I want to see her zoom in and talk to your kiddos.
Yes.
All right.
I do too. Thanks, Reese.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you later.
See y'all later.